Hey everybody, this is Tom from Rocket Restorations, and today we're going to do another comparison. There's not very often where you get the chance to have a Superbird and a Road Runner right next to each other, so I thought we would go through and tell you what the differences are between a 1970 Road Runner and a 1970 Superbird. I mean, they're the same basic car, but there's obviously a lot of differences between these two things, so let's go over them. Let's start out with the Road Runner. So this is a 1970 Plymouth Road Runner. It is a V-code 446 barrel car. Pins right there. I've done a video of this on my channel. It was a while ago, but if you go back in my catalog, you can find the video we did on it. But RM23, so R is Road Runner, R is B-body Plymouth, M is medium for Road Runner, 23 is two-door hardtop, V is 446 barrel, or 6-pack, 0 is the year, B is the plant Hamtramck, and then 113809 is the rest of the VIN sequence number. This is a pretty cool car. Picked this up in South Dakota last year. Actually got invited to McCacken. Some of you are at McCacken this year. This is in the barn find section there, which is pretty neat. Haven't done much with it. We got it running. I've been kind of slowly working on it. You know, a little bit here, a little bit there. We haven't made a ton of progress on it, but I love the wheels and tire stance on here. It's pretty neat. So this is going to be our example of a base car. This one over here is a 1970 Plymouth Superbird. This is one we've done 2 videos on. We found it in the estate in Spokane, Washington. So we got one video where we bought 12 cars and got it out of the garage. Then we had one where we spent 3 days to get it running. Obviously, you can see we didn't quite finish getting it all the way together, but it runs and drives. That was kind of the goal. So, okay, so let's start out with the 70 first. So the 70 has, you know, it's based on the 68 to 70 V-body. They're all pretty similar, but they changed a few things on the 1970. Obviously, the grill is way different than the 68, 69. The grill is gray and kind of has the kind of scallop in the middle, whereas the 68 and 69 were aluminum and straight across. The hood's different in 70. They have this bulge hood, which has the collar on the back, and then some are air grabber, some are not. There's an air grabber car with the door right there. The windshields are the same on all 68 to 70 V bodies. Charger, Road Runner, Cornet, they're all the same. Any two-door hardtop sedan and 4-doors different. The roof line is pretty similar on the 68, 69. The rear window's the same, rear window trim's the same. And then starting in 70, they had these really cool looking fender scoops. I think it's a really good looking thing on these. For 70 side markers. And then the tail panel has the Plymouth written out, the Road Runner, and then the tail lights, which are really cool looking tail lights. They painted them body color, and the lights are kind of inset into a kind of a die cast bezel that goes in there. Kind of neat. So, and then the Superbird here, as you can see, has the quarter scoops. It's the same, but the front end is way different on these. Okay, so let's kind of go point by point here. So obviously the hood is very different on this. And one thing they did, this was true on the Daytona too, is they couldn't justify making a whole new front end just for one specialty car that they didn't build that many of. They built, you know, 1,900 or so Superbirds. They only built 500 Daytonas. On the Daytona, they used 70 Charger fenders basically, and they're slightly modified, but that's basically what they used. On a Superbird, what they did is they used 70 Coronet fenders and 70 Coronet hood. Obviously it was cut off on the front, and then they put a little extension on right there for the Superbird hood. You know, I'll lift it up and show you the underneath. And again, these aren't like factory direct bolt-on pieces from those, but they're very, very close. They basically use the same stamping, just modified a little bit. So it's 1970 Dodge Coronet fenders and hood. On here, it's just, you know, the 70 Road Runner fender. They made them, you know, all the Belvedere satellites, they all had the same fenders. They just had a unique bulge hood for the Road Runner. But you couldn't get an air grabber in a Superbird, and it has that big body line right down the middle of it, which is kind of interesting on that. And then the 70 Coronet fenders. And they said they were modified. There's some corner pieces that go down here on the Superbird. They kind of cover over to the nose there. They're a little different than the 70 Super B. 70 Super B, or 70 Coronet, whatever, had a front valance on it. They kind of went underneath there, but they had to modify that for the Superbird. And then, of course, the Superbird had the fender scoops on it, which I have inside here. There's a bunch of unique parts we didn't have a chance to put on the car yet, so they're wrapped up in the package here. The Superbird only parts of this are actually in really good shape, but this is the one exception. I'm not sure what happened. They look like they maybe got a little hot, but they basically mount right there on top of the fender. And on Daytona, they're cut out. On a Superbird, they're not supposed to be cut out. I've seen some dealer installed ones. Dealers got them and they put them in, but there's not supposed to be holes on the fenders on a Superbird, where there's reason on Daytona. So between a Superbird and a Road Runner, the firewall and inner fenders are all the same, but the core support is slightly different. So you can see the core support on here. It has that cross piece on top right here to mount the grill and tie everything together. On the Superbird, they actually have an extra piece welded on right here to mount this front piece. As you see, we mounted all this stuff, but it's not like permanently mounted. We were just kind of trying to get it together for to make sure I had all the pieces to get together. But that's a major difference there. The core support's a bit different there. And then the fenders go in, and there's a box right there that mounts there too that's a little different on the fenders. The 70 Road Runner doesn't have, obviously. But the 70 Coronet had the headlights mounted there, and then on this, obviously there's nothing there. And of course the nose, and then the headlights pop up on these. Again, we didn't make any of this functional, but they kind of pop up on there as part of the nose. And then there's pieces underneath here I haven't put on yet. There's turn signals go in there. There's a grill and a surround to go on both of those. Obviously, all that stuff's different on a Superbird versus a Road Runner. All right, as I pointed out before, the windshields are the same, but the only difference is on a Superbird, they had these wind deflectors that mounted on here. And they just mounted on with screws just like that. I think no, I think that's the right way. No, I think it's the other side. But yeah, they just mount right here. And then on a Superbird, they have holes in them for screws to help hold them on. And then there's screws on the inside, 3 screws there. On Daytona, they don't have the holes on the outside. That's how you can tell the difference. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's for that side. It doesn't really matter right now. But yeah, so basically what these did is they smoothed out the air over the drip rail, because that drip rail would catch air going down the road. I mean, you know, you're going to 300 miles an hour down in Daytona or Talladega, every little bit made a big difference. These A-pillar moldings on the Superbirds and the Daytona had something similar that helps smooth out that air. All right, another big difference is the rear window. So you can see these. This is a traditional 68 to 70 B-body rear window. All Coronets, Road Runners, Belvederes, Satellites had this. But they found out, you know, on the Charger, they had the flying buttresses that kind of held air, and wasn't that smooth. So you wanted to smooth out the rear window a little bit. So what they did on this is they actually put a plug in here. So see how much different that looks than the Road Runner? So it's a different glass, different trim. So it basically filled in the hole back there and then extended it a little bit. And then what they did is, so on the Daytona, they put the rear window plug in and they didn't have a vinyl top on them. So they ended up having to spend a ton of time smoothing everything out and making it work. So on the Superbird, they just said, well, we don't have to finish it if we put a vinyl top to cover our bad work. So that's what they did. So they have as you can see right here, there's kind of the plugs right there. Again, that's unique glass and trim on that. Super duper 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 hard to find. And then they put these little corner caps in here. So these went over on each side. And then they had this unique vinyl top trim that was black. And they had this piece here and that piece there to cover all that. And then on if you had a vinyl top on a Road Runner, which coincidentally enough, this car did have a vinyl top, but it's gone now. The trim would just go from here over to here to cover the vinyl top, but it was chrome, or stainless, I should say, not chrome. And then on the Superbird, they were black and painted. So the tail panel of the cars are basically the same. So you have bumper, taillights, the Plymouth letters, the Road Runner emblems, that's the same. But obviously they put a wing back here. You know, it's kind of hard to miss that one. That's like the most obvious difference between the two cars. But they have the giant wing here that mounts through the quarter panel there. Okay, so now we get into some places that are way different. So we're gonna go in the trunk here. So on a Superbird, they have braces welded in there, and then these brackets bolt through, and then the wing bolts through there to reinforce all that. Then there's also a stud there because these had 2 jacks. So these had the standard hook jack, and then they had a scissor jack for the front, because you obviously couldn't, all the jacks in these years went up by the bumpers. You obviously couldn't do that on a Superbird because they have a giant nose cone up there, no chrome bumper. So they had both of them over here. And then again, same thing on this side. They had the bracket on there that's welded to the floor, and then those black braces bolt to that. And then the original jack on these is supposed to be up here. So so they just moved the scissor jack over there for that. And then they also had to modify the deck lid here. So see those special welded brackets there? They basically made limiters on these. They could only go up so high. So the deck lid itself is the same, but they didn't want to go up too high to hit the wing. So they had to put limiters on there. So see on the 70 over there, how far that deck lid's up? This one's only up about half as high. Because on this one, it doesn't have those limiters on it like the Superbird does. So again, same bracket. It just doesn't have, there's that box that's welded there on the Superbird to prevent that from happening. And then again, the spare and jack area is the same there, and there's just no stud over here for the scissor jack. So the VIN on the Superbird, as I was showing you on the Road Runner, is basically the same. So it's R for B-body Plymouth, M is for medium Road Runner, 23 is two-door hardtop, and then U is the engine code. So the interesting thing about here is you could not get a U code Road Runner in 1970. It was not an available option. You either had to have a 383, the 446 barrel, or a Hemi. Those were the available options on a 70 Road Runner. So if you ever see an RM23U, you know it's a Superbird. And of course, Superbirds came with the 446 barrel too, and the Hemi as well, but that's just one thing. So on a U code RM23, you know it's a Superbird. And it's 070 for the year, then A is Lynch Road plant, because they were all built at the Lynch Road plant. And then the sequence number is 181273. And then Lynch Road cars have very unique fender tags. They have a very unique layout on them. They in some ways show you more information and less information than our plans. So E86 is the engine code, 440 4 barrel, G21 is 4-speed, and then the VIN, and then this car was originally white, EW1, and then the V19 is a unique Superbird code. That means special order vinyl top, which is the vinyl top for the rear window plug. So it was special order on that. And then 26 is 26-inch radiator. Every Superbird got a 26-inch radiator. Every Superbird got power disc brakes. If you notice, this one is missing that, and I don't know why. I think maybe this thing was a drag car at some point. That is my best guess. I'm not sure. They also put in manual steering at some point. It's supposed to have power steering because all Superbirds are supposed to have power steering as well. And then V88 is stripe delete because, of course, there's no stripe. C16 is the console. And these codes all mean something too. So that's engine, tranny, and rear end assembly. And you can look at those are the last 4 digits of the assembly part number for those parts, so you can look all those up and tell what they were. 180-236 is the actual sequence number at Lynch Road, and that's gate and line when it was built. And the 21 over there is an inspection mark. Let's go look at the 70 Road Runner fender tag. So as you can see on this one, it's a completely different layout because it's a St. Louis car. This is the more traditional one, Hamtramck, LA. Most of the other plants use this format. It makes more sense in my mind. It lists more codes on here, but it doesn't tell you what the engine assembly was, the rear end assembly, and some of that stuff's just a little bit different. This one's E87. That's the 446 barrel automatic, and again the RM23 for Road Runner and the V for the 446 barrel. This car was originally black with burnt orange interior. Kind of neat. Another kind of interesting difference, so that's the Plymouth side marker. They do have a light in them. So all the 70 Plymouth B-bodies got that. On this car, it's actually a chrome reflector like the Coronet, because again, they're Coronet fenders, so they used a Coronet side marker on it. And then the rear uses the correct rectangle 70 Plymouth one. So you can see out here, it's the same side marker. Obviously, I haven't put them in the Superbird, but you know, we have all that stuff. All right, well, that's the major differences between a 1970 Road Runner and a 1970 Plymouth Superbird. In some ways they're the same, and there's a lot of ways where they are not. I mean, obviously the nose and the wing are the big ones, but there's a lot of subtle differences on these cars that they modified them to make them legal for NASCAR and make them a little bit faster. It adds a little interesting touch, you know, from the extremes of what they were doing to try to get these together. You know, Richard Petty left Plymouth in 1969 because he wanted Daytona. They wouldn't give him one, and then they brought him back by giving him the NASCAR contract. So he built all the NASCAR vehicles for Chrysler after that. But you know, the Superbird was another big component of that too. He wanted to be competitive on the super speedways, and he wanted a Superbird to be able to do that. This is on the Road Runner. This is just a little nugget that I love. Honest Charlie, honest powered winner. I love that. Well, that's the major differences between the two cars. If we missed anything, please let us know in the comments. I really appreciate everybody for watching. Really appreciate it. I think we're going to go over 5,000 subscribers this week, which is pretty cool for how far this channel's come in a very short period of time. So thanks everybody for watching, and we'll talk to you soon.